All right, let's start off by answering a very straightforward question at the beginning of this video, and that is, what is training volume? Now, training volume is a term that a lot of people use, but there's a lot of different ways in which training volume can be observed and quantified. And so it's important to not only understand that for yourself, but for individuals you might be talking to or listening from. For some individuals, they might be talking about training volume in terms of the number of working sets you do in an exercise. So let's say you do one warm-up set of bench press and then 3 hard sets where you're pushing yourself each one. That person might call that 3 working sets of bench or chest work or tricep work for that given workout. Now, another way to track volume is the amount of repetitions within an individual set. So a high volume set might be a set where you're doing upwards of 20 to 30 plus repetitions. Additionally, in this same interset type of volume, you can also be looking at time under tension, which is the amount of time spent with the muscle under tension. So if you're doing a slow tempo bicep curl, say 2 seconds up, 2 seconds down, that's a 4-second repetition. That spread out over 10 reps is a 40-second set. That's another way that we can look at training volume within a given set. Furthermore, going after all of that, volume can be looked at a given volume of an entire workout as a whole. So was this a high or low volume workout? Well, maybe if I only did single-digit number of sets throughout the course of an entire workout, I might call that a lower volume day. Whereas if I were doing multiples of 10 plus sets in a given workout, spread out over all the exercises, I would be more inclined to call that a higher volume day. You have to understand with strength and conditioning, training in general, it's all very relative. So in ways that people talk and say high volume, low volume, it's important to understand where that individual is coming from, both whether you're the athlete or the coach training an athlete. Finally, we can look at volume as a weekly or monthly total. So really extending out the time frame of how we look at it. So one of the common parameters that I use with people I train is tracking their weekly accumulation of working sets. So if I were trying to ramp up their volume for, say, chest work, if we're focused on chest hypertrophy, I might look at slowly creeping up the total number of working sets of chest, increasing that volume over the course of subsequent weeks. So by slowly increasing volume over a set period of time, we can not only provide the stimulus for growth, if that's our goal, but you're also improving work capacity of the muscles as well. Okay, so now that we have a working understanding of what is volume, and by no means a fully comprehensive understanding, but enough to move forward with the conversation, we can talk about why the hell do you even want to increase volume? And I kind of touched upon that earlier. So by increasing volume, we can mainly either increase hypertrophy, so muscle or connective tissue growth of an area, or improve the work capacity of the area. So even if I am a bench press athlete where all I care about is benching more and more weight, if my work capacity is very low, there's a very small amount of training that I can handle before I fatigue. Whereas if I increase volume of some accessory sets or movements, I'll be able to improve my work capacity so that when I'm focused on my strength work, I'm able to tolerate additional reps, additional stimulus before fatiguing. From the standpoint of hypertrophy for any tissues, muscles, tendons, ligaments, whatever you're focused on training, increasing volume is a surefire way to improve that stimulus for growth. So more frequent and more stimulus of growth, as long as you're recovering in between, is a definitive way to grow the area. So if we now understand what volume encompasses and why we might desire to increase volume, how do we go about doing so? The most straightforward and first option for increasing volume typically is just increasing acute volume in an individual workout. The way that I do this personally for myself and most of the people I train is by increasing the amount of working sets in a given workout. Now, this is chiefly limited by your fatigue in the individual workout. So I'm sure everyone has almost had a situation or example that they can call to mind where they were training, and by the end of the workout session, they were just fried. And you're going through a workout set and you maybe can't even feel the muscle that's exercising. You're kind of just grinding through it, and you're just finishing off the end of the workout, the reps, the sets, without much thought of anything other than just getting through it. This is what most people would refer to as junk volume, and it's a pretty large indication that you've pretty much topped out the amount of fatigue that you can handle either systemically or in that given body part in that individual workout. So if I'm trying to do 10 sets of 10 on weighted pull-ups, for me, that is well beyond my work capacity, and I likely would have terrible stimulus by the end of it. I would probably be all bicep yanking at it, jumping up for the reps. The quality of reps would be low. The stimulus to the muscle that I'm trying to train would be low, and it would be effectively junk. So if you can't increase the amount of sets, reps, or time under tension in an individual workout, another way to increase volume then is to increase your number of workouts throughout the week. So let's break down that example a little bit more. Say currently I have 8 working sets of my chest on one day and 8 working sets of my chest on another day. So that gives me 16 total sets of chest per week. If I were to add in a third day of training chest, but say only train my chest for 6 sets on each day, I'm lowering the fatigue on the chest on each individual workout, which might give me better stimulus and better mind-muscle connection training the muscle. However, even though I'm reducing the daily workout volume, I'm increasing my weekly volume up to 18 working sets from that previously mentioned 16 working sets. So increasing total number of workouts is an additional way that we can improve your amount of volume. However, this once again becomes limited by stress, fatigue, joint pain, injury, these things that kind of build up over cycles where you're hammering yourself with high volume. Ways to modulate this is forms of active or passive recovery. When I talk about passive recovery, I'm thinking about things like diet and sleep. So eating an influx of more calories will help have your body with more resources in order to repair the damage that you've done. This chiefly comes in the form of muscle protein damage, so increasing your protein, or depleting your stored glycogen storages, which would be replenishing that with carbohydrates typically. Increasing sleep is always a pretty surefire way to improve your recovery as well. So you might find that by adding an extra hour or two onto your nightly sleep, say if you only sleep 4 hours a night, you increase that to 6 hours a night, you might find that you just can tolerate more volume on a weekly basis in your workouts. When I talk about active recovery, I'm talking about short mini workouts that are focused on just getting active blood flow to an area without causing any additional damage to the tissues. A good way to do this for a lot of people might come in the form of light aerobic exercise, where you are working and moving those areas that you're trying to grow without really damaging them. So if I've been focusing on building leg hypertrophy, say specifically quad strength and size, I might choose to do some very light cycling on my days off. So it's a predominantly leg quadricep focused aerobic exercise, but I'm keeping it at such a light threshold that I'm really only driving blood flow to the area, but not further damaging the tissues. Probably my favorite form of active recovery is just sitting in the sauna, because you are not exercising the muscles at all. You're just sitting there, but you're also driving up your core body temperature, increasing blood perfusion to the areas, and causing hormetic effects to your body as well that can help stimulate further recovery. Finally, and by no means is this a conclusive list of everything that you can do to improve volume. But my final thing that I want to talk about is just planning for your goals in advance. So this is actually a real example of something that I am currently doing with one of my clients right now. We're currently in the middle of a cycle focused on chest hypertrophy, but we already know that the next 7-week cycle we're doing is going to be focused on building up arm hypertrophy. So we know we want to build our arms, but we're still focused on chest now. So when I'm picking accessory movements for the current upper body workouts, I'm going to pick movements that are going to start preparing and strengthening the connective tissues of his wrist, elbow, and shoulder, so that by the time that we get to this arm building cycle, his body is prepared and able to tolerate more volume. This becomes especially prevalent in tricep extension exercises. So if you think about any tricep extensions, skull crusher type movement, rope extensions, these historically put a lot of pressure on individuals' elbows. And a lot of times when people are trying to build these big, meaty, strong triceps, they end up getting a lot of elbow pain from it. But if I can know this in advance and start preparing movements now, over a month in advance of when we'll be increasing that volume, I can build a stronger connective tissue region all the way down this chain of musculature, so that when we start adding in these exercises, the threshold of tolerable volume is already substantially higher at baseline. So I know this was a longer, more rant form type of video, but I hope that it's caused you to reconsider the way that you look at your training volume. Maybe you haven't even looked at training volume in general, and this is the motivation for you to start just tracking the weekly number of sets and slowly bumping up that number. Maybe you already do these kinds of things, but you were looking for ways to maybe try and increase volume outside of bumping up individual workouts. Regardless of whether this video benefited you or if you knew all the information, I would love to hear from you in the comments about what things you agreed, disagreed with, or what things you might be excited to deploy in your own training. Thank you as always for watching the video, and I look forward to posting another video next week. Have a good one.